Good evening. I am Barnard Crespi, and thank you for joining me today. Today, we'll discuss what AI will expose inside of your business. Let me start by being very clear about what this session is and what it isn't. This is not a session about AI tools, vendors, platforms, or models. I'm not here to tell you what to buy, what to pilot, or what everyone else is using. What I want to do instead is help you step back and look at something we rarely stop to examine: how work actually happens inside of your business today. Most leaders I speak with feel a mix of curiosity and pressure around AI. Curiosity because the potential is quite obvious, pressure because everyone else seems to be moving fast. Boards ask about it, peers talk about it, teams are experimenting with it, sometimes very quietly. The pressures makes it very easy to jump straight into action. Pilots, tools, proof of concept. The session is about slowing things down just enough to ask better questions, not to delay progress, but to avoid accelerating the wrong things. Because the biggest risk with AI is not falling behind, it's moving fast in the wrong direction. So there's the assumption that sitting quietly behind many AI conversations, if we add AI, productivity will improve. It sounds reasonable, it feels logical, and sometimes it's true. But if you look at how technology has played out over time, that outcome is far from guaranteed. Technology does one thing extremely well: it makes whatever already exists move a lot faster. If work is clear and well designed, that is a huge advantage. If work is messy, fragmented, or inefficient, technology just helps you get to the wrong outcome a lot faster. That's why many organizations say things like, we implemented the system, but the benefits didn't materialize. Or we're using the tool, but it hasn't really changed much. The issue is rarely the intelligence of the technology, it's the structure of the work underneath it. AI doesn't create clarity, it follows it. Now, when productivity becomes a concern, the conversation often turns to people. Do we have the right skills, enough staff, enough effort? But most productivity loss isn't about people at all. It's about friction. Friction shows up in handoffs, in approvals, in work that exists only because systems don't line up. Think about how often capable people spend time chasing information, reconciling numbers, correcting errors created upstream. Over time, this friction becomes invisible. It is just feels like how things work. Then AI shows up, and suddenly the friction matters a lot more because now you're automating around it. If the work isn't redesigned first, AI becomes another layer to manage instead of a way of simplicity. Now, here's a distinction that explains a lot of what leaders are experiencing right now. Jobs are static, they are defined by titles, roles, descriptions, and org charts. They change slowly. Work behaves very differently. Work changes as customers change, as regulations change, as technology changes. Over time, jobs become containers for tasks that no longer belong together. People adapt, they create workarounds, they step outside their formal roles just to keep things moving. AI makes this visible. It highlights where judgment really matters and where people are compensating for poor design. A lot of what feels like AI complexity is actually old work structures being exposed. Now, most AI initiatives start with a very familiar questions. What tools should we look at? What vendors should we talk to? What pilots should we run? Those questions make sense. They're just too early. A better standing point is quieter and more uncomfortable. What work actually needs to be done? Which parts truly require human judgment? Which parts are predictable and repeatable? and which parts exist only because of history. This idea shows up again and again in leadership research, including work published by MIT Sloan Management Review. The organizations that see real value from AI don't start with technology, they start with work. That shift changes everything that comes after it. Now, to make this practical, here's a very simple way to think about work. First, work that clearly needs people, judgment, context, relationships, accountability. Second, work where machines have a clear advantage. Volume, speed, consistency, pattern recognition. Third, work that probably shouldn't even exist at all. Rework, duplicate data entry, manual reconciliation, approvals that add no value. Most AI conversations focus almost entirely on the second category. But the biggest gain often comes from the third. Eliminating unnecessary work creates a capacity immediately. Automating it just locks it in. This is where leadership judgment really matters. Now, here's a question worth sitting with. If you added AI to your business tomorrow, what would it amplify? Would it amplify clarity or would it amplify confusion? Would it speed up good decisions or lock in bad ones faster? AI doesn't introduce direction. It follows a direction that already exists. That's why readiness isn't just about data or systems, it's about how clear the work actually is. This question alone can prevent a lot of expensive mistakes. So work design is often gets pushed down the organization to operations, to HR, to transformation teams. But the most impactful decisions are leadership decisions. What needs approval? What gets escalated? What gets measured? What gets automated? AI raises the stakes because once work is automated, it becomes much harder to change. Leaders who take ownership of work design get value from AI. Those who don't often find themselves reacting to outcomes they didn't even intend. This isn't about control, it's about responsibility. Now, as you go back to your business, these questions are meant to be practical, not theoretical. You don't need the perfect answers. You just need honest ones. So the first question is usually the easiest. Where does work feel harder than it should? Leaders tend to know this immediately. You hear it in meetings, you see it in delays, rework, and frustration. The second question, where do we rely on heroics? And this one's just needs a bit of context. In the conversation, heroics doesn't mean people doing great work. It means situations where work only succeeds because someone consistently steps in to make that work. That might be someone staying late or to reconcile issues, a manager manually approving exceptions, or a person everyone depends on because they know how to navigate around broken steps. Heroics are bad. In fact, they often reflect commitment and professionalism, but they can hide places where the system itself is doing too much recycling on or relying on individuals. And that matters here because AI tends to follow the system, not the people compensating for it. So the third question helps balance that out. What would we redesign before we automate? Now, everything that feels inefficient needs AI. Some things just need simplification, clarity, or removal. So, taken together, these questions help leaders spot where clarity is missing, where work design could improve, and where technology would actually help. That's the real value of asking them. Now, AI is not a shortcut to productivity, it's an amplifier of how work is designed today. It amplifies clarity or confusion, good decisions or bad ones. The organization that succeeds with AI won't be the fastest adopters. They'll be the ones most deliberate designers of the work. Before adding AI, redesign the work. That one decision changes everything that comes right after it. And if this session raised questions you want to explore further, I'll be happy to help. I've actually put together an executive reflection worksheet based on the presentation that you or your team can use to work through the ideas, the questions in a much more practical way. If you're interested, send me a message. I'm happy to share it with you. And if you're interested in going deeper, feel free to send me a message. The goal isn't to rush into AI, is to make sure you're ready for it. Thank you very much for joining us this evening and have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you.